Soulful means something that's heartfelt, deep and profound. To journey means to travel from one place to another. This show is about deep and heartfelt discussions about where we are, where we're headed, and where we've been. It's a place where we highlight memorable moments we've had. This show is about everything and everyone that is good for the soul.
Welcome to another edition of Soulful Journey. I am your host, Venus Jones, and let's take a minute to relax with our breath. We are trusting ourselves today. Yes, I got my shirt on. I want to say, oh my gosh, I want to say first before we begin, I want to say happy birthday to my number one partner in not crime, but in a good time. My partner in a good time, who is the one and only Stephen. Happy birthday to you. He is watching, and I want to say I love you too. But right now, I want you all, who I truly love, anybody who chooses to tune in every week, love you so much as well. And I want you to take a deep breath with me, if that's okay. We love to do this every Soulful Journey. I am your host. Again, Venus Jones, Venus Love Jones, they like to call me. And I am an author, an educator, a teaching artist. Today, we will be talking about courageous conversations. But first, let's have a moment with ourselves. Let's take a deep breath and focus on that breath. Feel yourself breathing in and feel yourself breathing out. Without trying to control your pattern of breathing, relax your shoulders, relax your jaw. Notice how every breath is different from the next. It is the same with life, ever changing and ever evolving. Whatever is going through your mind right now, you can let it slip away. And just for this moment, we can come back to harmony, because you are safe. You are accepted. You are forgiven, and you are loved. Yes, we are going to talk about how to show love today. We're going to talk about how to be love when it's difficult. I had a friend. I was thinking about, what am I going to talk about today? I still plan on returning to somewhat to the old format where I'm going to be interviewing people, but there's just conversations that are popping up. And one of the conversations that popped up for today, and questions that popped up, a friend of mine called me and she said, Venus, I'm wondering if you can tell me, I just need some advice. And I was like, yeah, sure. She said, can you tell me, like, what do you think about if I should ask a question? Like, I'm in the beginning of a relationship and I'm not sure if I should ask this question about, moving a relationship forward, or how difficult that could be when you don't really always know where you stand with someone. So it got me thinking, and I know it can be really hard. So to have those kind of conversations when you don't know where you stand with someone. So my question is, what holds us back? What gets in the way of courageous conversations? Somebody type it in the chat. Let me know what you think gets in the way of a courageous conversation. This is a dialogue. You can talk to me. Anybody, let me know what you think. It's like it's a 4-letter word. Starts with the letter F, but it's pretty foul as well, but it's not always. Yes, it's fear. Thank you. It's fear. Fear can get in the way of a courageous conversation, and we all have it. It's human to have fear, and sometimes the fear can. It doesn't always have to be foul. Sometimes fear can be helpful, and fear can be your friend. Thank you, Shanita. Yes, ding, 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 ding. Fear it is. but sometimes fear can be your friend. But I want to talk about my grace model. See, I came up with this model. I have this workshop that I do sometimes, and I'm thinking about relaunching it. So if you're here, you're in luck. Because you can DM me, and I will. And if you're not on my mailing list, make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to have it again soon. And it's called Race and War: A Courageous Conversation. It's based in this notion that some people think that I am fearless, and that is not true. I don't know a stranger, though. It's true. I don't know a stranger. I'll talk to somebody who I don't know, like they're my friend. And just to see how courageous you are, I want to ask you a question. If speaking of courageous conversation, it doesn't have to be a dating relationship. It could be a relationship with a stranger. It could be a relationship with a family friend member, and definitely a coworker. But here's a question. Let's pretend this person, is a stranger. Okay. And he or she is in a loud conversation behind you. And say you are at the post office, and you notice that the person is talking so loud that you can't even be in conversation with someone you're talking to, because they are so loud behind you. Here's the question to see how courageous you might be, or unbothered. Do you say like a sarcastic thing to yourself, maybe? Just like and just roll your eyes? Do you politely ask the person to lower their voice or hang the phone up? Do you just talk to the person that you were talking to about that person on the side? Who are you? How do you show up in the world? Because really, when it comes to a courageous conversation, sometimes we can practice on strangers, because strangers really don't have, they really don't always matter as much as maybe a family member or a coworker. It's like, how much skin is in the game, and does it really matter? Somebody say, I wouldn't say anything to them because I don't think it matters. It's none of my business if they're talking that loud. That's their problem. But I feel like it could still be a teaching moment or a lesson, especially if you know how to use humor. But it just depends. You can't be married to the outcome. But I want to talk about my grace model. And see, with my grace model, I say you have to ground yourself with grace. And that's what the G stands for. You have to ground yourself with grace. Steven says, ABS, always be sarcastic. Okay. I love sarcasm too. So really, when I was, taking a quiz like that, I would probably say I might be sarcastic sometimes. I might just be like, okay, it's not even worth it. But it just depends on the situation. But sometimes you might want to say, hey, and they might be like, oh, I'm sorry. Right. And then it wasn't even a big deal. But what stops us usually is fear and the uncertain and not knowing what will happen when you ask a question or do something. So G for me is grounding yourself in grace. And maybe for me, grace can be like saying grace, God, am I understanding? Would you please help me with this situation? Or it could be, just grounding yourself and asking, is this even something you want to do, right? Or if you have time for a conversation that you have time for. And R is reasoning, like knowing your reason. What's your reasoning for, and reflect on that. Like before you even enter a conversation, what is your reason for entering it? You want to know that, because as you move forward, you really want to know what you want out of it before you enter it. If you just want respect, or if you want to control the situation, or if you want to just listen and be curious of what's going on. Maybe the person is deaf. You never know. Maybe they're talking really loud because, and you want to ask the question, because A stands for ask a question, right? A lot of us don't do this in the conversation. We all immediately seek to defend and or we immediately think about doing something different, right? Somebody says, I would say really loudly, boy, someone is having fun back there. Right. So you're using humor. Exactly. I love if you can use humor. Sometimes it really works. Sometimes it doesn't. But I love humor. And if you have a good sense of humor, you are already ahead of the game. And that can also be sometimes sarcastic and somebody, depending on the tone. But C is connecting with compassion. I tend to be the kind of person that's always looking for the good in everybody, right? So I'm gonna look for common humanity and think about when was the last time maybe I was really loud and didn't notice. So and just like leading with that and connecting after if they answer your question, connecting with compassion, and then how you do that is maybe saying, okay, I understand that this is what's going on, but we can't even hear ourselves think. Right? Or right, but so I don't even know if you knew that you were that loud, but X, Y, and Z, right? But it's all good, right? And not being like so completely bothered by it, but at least letting someone know that you were just curious of why they were talking that loud. And then evaluating the lesson, like that's the E. Like always seeing everything as a lesson. Like so I always say that this grace model, I'm so proud of it. If you want to dive deeper, you would have to definitely attend my workshop because I really break this stuff down a little bit more, being a communication professor than I am. But I just wanted you to think about that scenario because I feel like when I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm sarcastic. Sometimes I address the situation. It depends on where I'm going or how much time I have. So that's that. But my friend, she was talking about a dating situation. She was talking about how in the beginning of a dating situation where you don't know the person that much, you're not really sure if it will come across too strong. Holla if you hear me, if you ever felt like somebody was moving a little too fast and asking you questions that you were not ready for. Been there. So maybe you are afraid of that because now I didn't date that much when it seems like every time I tried to date, I ended up in an actual relationship. Like I didn't feel like I was dating a lot of people at one time, but this friend of mine, she is dating more than one person, and the person she's talking about is dating more than one person. So that's what can make things tricky. So she's, for example, she asked him, he said, well, she was like, I miss you. And he was like, well, what do you mean you missed me? I'm kind of shocked that you would say that. And so that comment that he made has been weighing heavy on her mind. Like, why would he say that? But here's the kicker. She didn't ask him why he said that. And sometimes somebody can say something to us and we're not thinking about it until later, or it might shock you. And I say it's okay to be shocked. It's okay to forgive yourself for not saying something in the moment or asking the question right then and there, because some people will try to guilt and shame you for not communicating right then and there, but it's still okay. It's okay to return to a conversation if you have to ask yourself these two questions. Because when I framed this session today, I said, or this episode, I said, when is the best time to have a courageous conversation? And I say there's two ways to think about this. One, you should have a courageous conversation if you know what you want. Going back to that R, you know your reason for having it. And the second reason you want to have a courageous conversation is when you are uncomfortable, so uncomfortable with not having it. So uncomfortable that it might be on your mind a lot, like, or you're losing sleep over it, or it's affecting your health, or you're getting some anxiety. So I feel like that's a good time as well to just ask the question. So when I neglected to have a courageous conversation, this has happened to me like at work. It wasn't because I didn't want to always, it wasn't always because I didn't want to have the conversation, because I love chatting. I mean, my throat chakra, if it's closed, it's because I'm not speaking up. And so I'm a communicator. I love to communicate, but I notice everybody else doesn't. You know, they might talk to other people or other sources instead of the main source. But I always want to go to the straight source and ask the source, like, why this or how that. But that doesn't mean that that person is going to want to talk to you. So let's pause on that and shake the maracas. Because you can't control what people do, right? So you can't be married to the outcome when you enter these courageous conversations. You can enter it, but when you enter it, that is why it's so important that you don't start with, this is going well, or, it's really simple, because if it was that simple, it would have already transpired. And you don't want to go in defending yourself or trying to defend yourself. You want to go in feeling like this is an I situation, and you're explaining yourself and what your needs are. And it's facts, write this down, facts over feelings, observations, right, over feelings. But you still want to express your feeling, right? Like, I felt this way. I love this win model. It's like a win-win model. When you did this, I felt this way, and this is what I need. Now, someone who is married to the relationship and wanting to stay in the relationship with you, they will hear you out. But if they don't want to be in the relationship with you, like TDJ says, and you let them walk, right? You let them walk, because the truth is, you're not going to be, everybody's not going to be for you. And that's okay. Right. And that's something that I'm still learning. And, because I know I grew up, little Pollyanna girl, want everybody to be loved and liked, and including myself. But that's not the way it is. Some people are just not going to resonate on the same vibration, or they just may not be ready. But you have to know that it's not about you. It's about them. It could be something that's going on in their life. It could be that they're not, they're just not ready, right? And we have to be okay with that. But that's going back to the beginning of this conversation with you, is when I asked you what gets in the way. That's what we're afraid of. And it's an R word that we're afraid of. What is that R word? What R word do you think I'm thinking of right now? What are we really afraid of? Somebody put it in the chat. Anybody know? What are we afraid of? I'll tell you. Rejection. Yes, rejection. Ooh, yeah, that part. And some people are on this soulful journey, focused on a destination and not the journey. They're focused on being right, or they're focused on not learning, right? So if you can enter the courageous conversation knowing that it's looking for the lesson, going back to that E, what the E stands for, evaluating, and see, even if they accept your feelings and the facts that you've displayed, or they reject them, you can also ask them to give you a proposal, or let you know what they're thinking, and they may be willing to do that, or they may not. And you have to just sit with that, right? And you have to know and express. That's why it's so important to enter with grace and grounding, and really know you have the time, and the reason, if the reason is truly to connect with them. And this is a valued relationship. With a stranger, which is my first scenario, there's not a lot of skin in the game. There's not a lot of there may not be a lot of need for you to just, bear your whole feelings out, but you still want to like think about why you're entering the conversation in the first place. So I just wanted to share that and let you know that if you're on Clubhouse, we're going to have on at 10:30 a.m. on this Thursday, Coco Lorraine and myself. She is also an educator and an artist, and we're both going to be talking and allowing people to share more about your courageous conversations that you've had and how did they go? Are there some stories that you can share with me that you went in scared and you were like, whoa, well, that wasn't that bad, right? And it ended up good? Or there were some that you went in thinking it would go one way and it went another? Let's talk about it. And that's what I like about Clubhouse, is that we can have a conversation about that. But you can also, let me know in the chat, how you felt about these tips that I've given, and let me know if they were helpful for you. And just let me know if you're interested in my next Courageous Conversation workshop, where I go and dive a little bit deeper and give you some opportunity to do a little improv with me. And we really dive deeper into maybe something that's going on with you specifically right now. So that's what I wanted to share with you, is when to have a courageous conversation. So to recap again, you want to have a courageous conversation when it's truly affecting you emotionally and physically, for sure. You don't want to put that off. And you also want to do it when you really know what you want out of it. And if sometimes it's just to be heard, and just to clear the air so that there's no false narratives happening. Because if we don't tell our story, then someone else will tell the story for us and make up a story in their head of what we're thinking, right? So be courageous, and just remember to let me know how you feel about this. So give this a thumbs up if you like it. Share it with a friend who might need some help right now with a courageous conversation. And I hope that you always speak up, especially when the health of your heart depends on it. And always be in right relation, if you can, with someone who is, as they say, equally yoked. We can talk about that a little deeper later in another episode. Or someone who is who shares the same values as you. It's always the best when it comes to intimate relationships. I'm going to go spend some time with the hubby, since it's his birthday. It's Cancer season. Happy birthday to all the Cancers. And it's also Junebug season, because June, we only have one more day in this month, but I am a Gemini and it's been my birthday all, but I'm happy that you tuned in today, and I really appreciate you. So again, I want you to continue to keep looking up and keep looking out, because when you do, there's a lot less fear and there's a lot less doubt. My name is Phoenix Jones, and I'll see you next week.